Yeah, some supporters here from Orange. Yes, I would like to speak about something that is sometimes a bit hidden behind all the technical backgrounds, to explain to the business that open source itself is an asset. Yeah, here is the next slide. This is what I would like to speak about, as I'm technical, by the way. README text, that's the introduction of myself. I will speak about money, why contribution is equal to influence, what open source changes in the image of a company, and what that means for your organization. I'm Silvério Santos. I'm working at a subsidiary of Orange that's called Orange Business Services. More than 25 years of IT experience in business. I have larger experience, but with the joystick in my children's time. I programmed, I sold computers, I'm administrating, and I'm starting to teach to younger people about IT. I have a lot of certifications in all possible areas, including project management, which is Scrum, and I'm in the Orange group governance for 7 years. So let's jump into what that means in terms of money. Is it really, is the value of open source really only the equivalence of avoided license costs? To compare open source with what you have not spent by not buying closed source software? Is it lines of code? Comparing the Fedora distribution version 9. These are figures from 2008. Think that it's 10.8 billion US dollars worth of software. Is that really everything? No. Of course, it is more about the independence from one supplier or from few suppliers, dictating what you have to buy, what you have to think, what you have to upgrade to, when you upgrade to the next major version or not. Because the file, the contents that are saved into a file is written in software. You always have the possibility to export your data if it is saved at a site of a supplier. You can export it and import it to the next one. That creates the freedom of choice. You can change the supplier if the service from one supplier is not good enough for you. This is the real value. It is not easily translated into money, but this is a monetary value because of the freedom of choice, you have a completely different situation in requesting and in discussing with suppliers. So, as I said, license cost is not everything, but we have costs involved with open source. The total cost of ownership, in the total cost of ownership, license is only one position. And if you remove that from open source, in the case of open source, there are still a lot of other costs in front of you should not forget. For example, if you migrate, the example from before, if you activate your freedom of choice, you sometimes have to migrate. Then you have a lower efficiency in the beginning because you have to get used to it. Maybe the workflow is different. And because the workflow might be different, you have additional training cost. You have the possibility, this is a big advantage, you have a possibility to to spend money for someone to create new functions. If this is, if this is created in your company or created by an external company, these are costs. And what you should never do is exaggerate, because it will come out, people will get known, will know about the exaggeration, and that costs trust. And the trust is then transferred to the open source software. Next topic is contribution is equal to influence. What does it mean? Let me explain it in the whole structure. So imagine you contribute. You can contribute in many ways. You don't have to be a programmer, but you can. You can code, or program. You need to have the coding skill. Not everyone has that. You can translate software into different languages. By the way, Microsoft Word was translated in more than, I think it was 8 or 9 languages, only after LibreOffice started to translate it into more than 30 languages. Yeah, so it changes the game. Just translating, that's no coding, no programming skill involved in here. You can test as an end user. So this is more or less an analytical skill, but you will notice, because as you use the software, you are testing it. Yeah, but you can do that in a more structured way, and this is an analytical skill. You can also add data. OpenStreetMap, Wikipedia, or Open Food Facts, which was founded by a French guy, Stéphane Gigondet. So if you contribute, you do community work. If you do community work, you have influence in the project. And the influence itself is a contribution. And now, forgive me the basic command, go to start. The influence is not unidirectional. The influence goes from the contributor into the community, but the community influences the view of the organization. And the organization can then adapt their future decisions on what the community tells. So if you see, for instance, that a specific function will not be accepted by the community, why should you invest time, money, programming into that function? Better would be to explain the new function you would like to contribute, and then start programming. And if it doesn't have a chance, then it would not be a good contribution. So, what are the results of those activities? New functions, better functions. You influence the product lifecycle directly, not indirectly. It's not the result of a survey you answered. You really directly, you can exactly directly invest into one specific function by pumping your money into that function, not into buying the next release of a closed source software. So in the end, you are in control. This is a word I heard from Maddock Hall, the president of the Linux International, yeah, John Maddock Hall. He told me that in person. I asked him after a talk, and I explained what can I do in a big company that has a research and development contract with Microsoft, and he said, use open source. Why? Because you are in control. Yeah? So this is not from me, but I would like to forward that to you all. Okay, so next topic. What does that mean for the image of an organization? Knowledge and experience is what fundamentally shows and proves the image of a company. It is important for business because you have access to the source code, which is open. You can deep dive very deep and create deep knowledge. It is possible, but not necessary. You can contribute to the projects, so you take part in the meritocracy, which is if you do more things, if you do good things, then you are better heard. It is a proof towards customers that you know what you are doing. It is not, well, believe us. No, it is a proof, an exact proof. And, which is also a business differentiator, it attracts good people. This will be one of the biggest challenges in the future, to have good people to do good jobs and to be ahead of the others who are doing the same. So what you build in the end is the most important thing you can have as an organization. Trust. If the customer does not trust you that you are doing things well, they will not give you their money. They will not give you their time. They will not give you their dedication. You can, a technical example is reproducible builds, which was an idea that was implemented by Debian. They try to recreate the build process of a software package to prove that the software source code, which does not contain spy software, which does not contain anything you don't want to have, really translates into the binary executable. This is reproducible builds, difficult word. And, as I said before, it proves, instead of believing the leaflets, the posters, the website marketing, shiny marketing things, we get everywhere. Yeah? This is an important thing with open source. You build trust, the most important thing. So what does that mean for the organization? Let me ask you a question, or a few. Is it okay to use open source to save license cost? Think for yourself. Is it okay to make your company appear to be modern? Just to improve sales? To be modern? Yeah? Or to be cool? Whatever. Is it okay to use open source to follow a management concept because the new CEO says we have to do this? Yeah, this is hip, this is cool, everybody does it, we have to do it so. I tell you why not. Open source is ready to do this and a lot more. Because open source is mature, which we heard yesterday in the morning. Open source can deliver value to the organization, and that's what we call an asset. It is a value for an organization. You can, with open source, you can find people, heads for your company. You can empower them. Give somebody a piece of software in his hand and he can change the world. And build an internal open source organization to foster, to increase momentum of open source adoption, development, and so on. All what I said before in your organization. Thank you.